to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast, Small Bites edition. I'm your co-host, Kate Balzer.
And I'm Charles Swint. So Small Bites episodes are discussions we had in the main episode that didn't quite fit the overall conversation, but we still wanted to share with you all.
We hope you enjoy these tasty conversational bites. We promise, no angry puppy scars from listening.
The Slayer activation spell.
Yes.
Good, bad, and different. There's a lot
Yeah.
of power in that spell. How irresponsible was it to cast that spell?
Yeah, so it's like I'm conflicted about it because for the storytelling, it's awesome. Like I love that that's how the show ended and Buffy shares her power and she changes things and she's breaking the patriarchy. But within the context of the series, if you like try to make sense of it, I don't know. I mean, I don't even really know how it would have actually stopped the first. I mean, because let's face it, like, I don't know that activating all the Slayers and them fighting down in the Hellmouth was actually going to stop the first and the Uber Vamps.
Hmm.
It was really Spike with,
Yeah.
so, I mean, granted, like, Buffy really never knows if her plans will fully work. I mean, we know that
Right.
she's always going to defeat the bad guy, but you kind of go in not knowing. But like when you see how things ended up, you're like, was that really a good idea? Like it was not going to work. Like I'm not sure how it was going to save things. Yeah, I'm so conflicted because it's like they sort of do it without getting full permission from everyone, but at the same time, those girls are already potentials. So at any moment, they could turn into the Slayer. So
Hmm.
isn't it better for them to have a community of Slayers? I don't think it was like a terrible decision. I mean, there were going to be consequences, but probably any plan she comes up with will have, negative consequences to it. It's just does the positive or the success outweigh the negative, in achieving her mission and in stopping the apocalypse. So yeah, I'm really torn on it,
It's, well,
whether it was the right decision. What about you?
I mean, it doesn't. Here's the thing. It doesn't. It's it levels the playing field for
True.
sure.
Yes.
It levels the playing field, but it certainly doesn't stop the first. I mean, we
Right.
obviously it is. Even Spike says he's like, "You've beat them back. It's my job to do the cleanup." Does that spell? I mean, again, it goes like you go back to like the adjoining spell. Like it's a great spell, but like look at the consequence
Right.
that occurred from there. And then when we look at the consequence of all of these slayers being called, and we learn, and we note the lore, there, into every generation, a slayer is born, one girl in all the world, yada yada yada. Right. So every 25 years or so, a new Slayer is called. And according to Angel, and according to Damages, when you go back and look at that, Wesley says that there are anywhere between hundreds of thousands of potentials born in every generation. So out of every 25 years, hundreds of thousands of slayers, potential slayers, are being born. And now Buffy has just activated all of them, which means, which no one talks about, is that there was probably some like 60-year-old woman sitting out there just sipping tea with her grandkids who all of a
Well,
sudden got Slayer string.
yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know like what the age limit is, but considering the implication is that Slayer doesn't become activated unless she has reached puberty, that
Right.
I'm gonna guess that no Slayer in menopause would like nobody who was a potential once they hit menopause would be activated. I'm just gonna go with that because
Really?
yeah.
I would disagree with that. I would say anyone before they hit their period may not have been activated, but I would say everyone after that would have been because you're still alive, you're
Well,
still
I know that.
active, the potential was still there. So why not activate, a perimenopause or a postmenopausal woman.
Well, I
Are
didn't say
you trying to
Perry.
say that
You have your
women?
period, you could be activated. You no longer have a period, you could not be activated. This is
That's
my
how
theory.
that's your theory. I'm just saying Kate thinks that just because you've hit perimenopause that you are no longer
That is not what I said at all. At all. You are a valuable member of society. Maybe not as a
but
slayer,
not as a slayer.
but you are a valuable member of society.
Send those emails that address those emails to Kate at abovepodcast at gmail.com.
See, this is what happens when you don't outline a specific universe. We get to make our own stuff up.
I know, it gets crazy. No, but I do, but there is something to that, that like that flow. But I wonder, like, but there are no rules about that. So who is getting activated and
Yeah.
what does that mean? What if there were people who were like sick, and on their deathbed, and we know that slayers have like healing strength. So like what if that sort of like rejuvenated somebody's life and brought them back? Like there's a lot of unknown consequences to
Yeah.
that. Now, granted, I'm sure, when they activated everybody, they were like using as much of Willow's witchy powers, and they probably, they got a bunch of witch covens to like probably seek out active slayers. I think that that's what the comics kind of give us that implication. And even in Angel, like that's sort of what Andrew kind of tells us, is that they like that's what they've been doing, is that they've been spending this time because when damages happens, it's been 6 months since they cast the
Right.
spell.
The spell.
So they've been spending the last 6 months like finding all of them, and then we meet Dana, who is sort of this outlier, this anomaly, because she's been in a mental institution this whole time because she was abused by some weird psycho killer who like murdered her family and then tortured
Right.
her and all this stuff. So, and I'm sure, and she's probably not the only one. She's probably
Yeah.
not the only outlier. So I think was casting the spell a good idea? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think like for storytelling purposes, absolutely. I love that moment, and I never
Yeah.
want that moment to change. Like I loved everything. And she made a decision that she needed to make in the moment for the fight that was happening right in front of her. And really probably didn't have time to consider the consequences of what that would look like, you know,
Right.
going
And no other
forward.
options were presenting themselves.
Right. So you take the best option that you have in the
Yeah.
moment in
Yeah.
that fight. So,
On the flip side, in support of it being a good thing, is there are so many vampires, demons,
mhm.
in the world. Why shouldn't there be more slayers? Like, it seems to me that's more of a balance. It's unfair for it to be one girl in the whole world. How are you making a difference in keeping the balance? So
Which
it seems to me that's like maybe not as many as got activated. I think, again, I know we go back and forth. Comics, canon, not canon. I mean, I think in the comics, it's a couple thousand have been activated, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
there's several thousand that have been
Yeah.
activated in the comics.
So that seems like reasonable to me. But then the consequence that they can't think about and we don't know well, we kind of know the answer to, but I don't remember if we know how long it takes. What happens when the first Slayer dies of all the activated potentials? Like, does another take its place? But we know it eventually all the Slayers start to die out because of Frey. And we
Right.
know Frey is canon because of the scythe
Right.
appearing in the show. So that makes it canon. So we know at some point
Right.
we're back down to one Slayer.
And I think to me that's again going through the comics, like if you're looking at the comics, like when they destroy magic in the world, and I think that's when the Slayers start dying out again. At least for me, like in my head. And again, I haven't read all of the comics, but that makes the most sense, is that once magic gets taken out of the world, then it doesn't necessarily allow for and I don't know if they address this in the comics or not, but I think it doesn't, once magic is sort of like brought back, it doesn't, it's limited, and so it again kind of resets itself, and so I don't think it allows for the activation of new slayers, but everyone who has already been activated is still good to go. But then, as they die out, that's how we like get our way to Frey, who becomes the
Right.
last one. At least that's what makes sense to
Yeah,
me.
I don't, it's been so long since I read. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know that they address that
And
at
they may
all.
not at all. They
Yeah.
may not really address any of it. And they may not want to address it because they want to leave room for
Yeah.
like to world build themselves or whatever. But so I have some questions though about Dana and her calling, right? Because
Hmm.
the lore is, and we have seen this a little bit in Buffy, is that like a potential will have dreams of Slayer's past. We see that a little bit in the movie. We see it a little bit in Buffy of like
Hmm.
Slayer's dreaming of like past selves or having these sort of prophetic dreams about things like that. When Dana is called, she's had the dreams, but also not only that, and maybe it's just because she's been traumatized so much that her brain is processing things differently, but she actually is like not just dreaming about it. She is like living it in a waking situation. She's speaking Mandarin. She becomes the Slayer from the Boxer Rebellion. She becomes her. Like she speaks to Spike. She recognizes Spike. She calls him by his name and knows about him. So why is it that she can understand it, but Buffy as a Slayer, but Faith as a Slayer just can't be like, oh, I have this memory has shown up from, I still like it. It's a little confusing. Like, does Dana like? Why does she have the memories of all of these past Slayers in her? Even though, again, it's been 6 months. So she has been a Slayer as long as Faith would have been. I mean, she's a little unstable. So maybe that's what it is that's called, but it's a little confusing of like why other Slayers don't know about somebody like Angelus or Spike, but Dana does.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the problem when any Buffy elements cross over into Angel in season 4, because it's been said, at least I've read it in one interview or something, where those writers didn't know Buffy, like the TV show.
Mm,
That's why you see like Spike written so out of character at times, it feels like, at least for those of us that are fans of Spike, I think we feel that way. I certainly did. So I think, unfortunately that probably led to some inconsistencies in Dana's storyline too. The impression I walk away with from that episode is because of her mental state. For
hmm.
whatever reason, I don't know if it's a combination of mixing the magic and her mental state, or is she getting more, dreams and visions than most Slayers because of her mental state? You're right. They don't really clarify that. It's not in concrete what that means and why it's that way. So you do kind of have to figure it out in your own head.
Yeah. When I rewatched it, I was like, none of this makes any sense, where you're like you're in and I and actually and I really like season 5 of Angel. I think it's actually one of its strongest seasons, quite frankly.
I think I said season 4. I meant
Uh,
season 5.
yeah. But yeah, it just became very confusing. But what I did like about that episode was, you know, Andrew coming in again, explaining the lore and doing all this other stuff and being like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and them sort of like taking her back and taking because she is an unintended consequence of
Mhm.
that spell, and they are taking responsibility for that. And so I think that like in a sense, like I realize that like they may realize that. And so they are doing their best. She's like, she's one of ours. We're taking her. And Angel is like, yeah, you're not going to take her. I don't trust you. And then, Andrew shows up with, like a dozen Slayers
Right.
at his back. And it's like, yeah, you're not taking anybody on.
Yeah. Yeah. Check the view screen, Uhura. Nobody in
No
our
one's
camp trusts you.
right. And and also, by the way, I've got 12 Slayers and none of them have slept with you. So they don't care about killing you, which I love
Yeah.
that.
No, I agree. And I mean, in the end, Buffy has to do what will protect the world. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, there will be, unintended consequences from that. And Dana is one of them. But like you said, I think that's a really good point. I never thought of it that way. That the way that Angel episode ends, damages, is they are taking responsibility
Hmm.
for one of their own and for the consequences of the spell. And hopefully, either between therapy and magic and drugs, they'll be able to bring Dana to a more centered place,
Hmm.
even if she's never a full activated Slayer.
Yeah, where she is a slayer, but maybe she's not a
Right,
slay, quote unquote slayer, like
right.
we talked about in our other episode, like the difference between being called and being like, and like what does it mean to be a slayer?
Yeah. Well, and it would have been interesting too if they had explored the option of deactivating certain Slayers, like either
Mm,
Slayers who were so out of control, that they didn't have a way to contain them, or like in Dana's case, would she be better off if she was no longer a Slayer?
right. What does that mean?
Right. And then selectively deactivating versus
Or
deactivating
even
all of them.
giving, yeah, or even giving ones who were active the
We,
choice to be
yeah,
like, hey, do
true.
you want this power? Because we gave it to you without your consent.
Right.
Do we have a way to take that away from you if
Yeah.
you truly don't want it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, imagine being like, in your late 20s, early 30s, and you're a mom with a couple kids and a job, like, and suddenly you're a Slayer. Like, what the hell?
You're like, I would
Um,
actually kind of watch that show.
I mean, it would have been a cool spin-off, to be
I think
fair.
I would watch it. I totally would watch, like, soccer mom trying to like take her kids to school, but then also
Yeah.
fighting the forces of darkness at night, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but that goes back to the question, like, what was the age range of people that got called? Like,
Right.
was, there a limit? Like, did it not go, not that somebody at 22 couldn't be married and have, kids and a job, but like, was it only 10 through 25 or, whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
What's
I
the
mean, because
Slayer
obviously
demographic?
the girls and young women we saw in the chosen montage were on the younger side.
Hmm.
Like you didn't see really anyone, above like 18, 19.
Right.
Kennedy was one of the older ones at 19. So anyway, that was just interesting.
Yeah.
Element. I do have to say for the episode of Damages, as much as I think it's a great episode, and I do love the way Andrew comes in and the way it ends. And I think in some ways it was really great that it wasn't anyone who had anything to do with Angel who came in because it probably is easier to stand up to him because there's no prior relationship. Plus, we know Andrew's in love with Spike.
Uh, when his Spike comes back and Andrew is just like, "Oh my God, we thought you were dead," and he just hugs her like you. That boy is in love with him so hard. Like it is, there is so much love there.
Yeah.
And I think he's also feeling a little bit of the like he's also like it's his own personal love, but it's also he understands like that there's some love from Buffy too, because he's
Oh
like, does
yeah.
Buffy know?
Yeah.
I'll tell her. But
Yeah. But that being said, in some ways, it would have been awesome if Sarah Michelle Gellar was available and had come in because she herself, not to the same degree and for the same reasons as Dana, but she herself, as we know, has spent time in a mental institution
mhm.
when she was a Slayer. So it just would have been really amazing to watch her try to connect with Dana. Um,
Yeah.
and also like watch her deal with the consequences of her decision with the spell. I would have loved to have seen that. Again, not no shade on like the episode that we got. It's just again, it's like one of those sliding doors
Right.
situations. Like,
What if?
what if? I wish we could have both episodes. That'd be
Right.
like super cool.
I wish we could do Buffy What If episodes like they
Yes.
do with Marvel with the
Original show.
I want a Buffy multiverse where we can see what
I
if
do
situations
too. Like
just so
one
that
where she never sleeps with Angel and somebody realizes 16-year-old girl shouldn't be hooking up with a 26-year-old man who also has
sure.
200 and something years of vampers.
I mean, sure. That too. There's that as
But I
well.
don't have any issues with that or anything.
No, not none whatsoever. The other thing too that like, because that episode ends with so Dana cuts off Spike's hands
Right.
and then they have to like magically reattach his hands and all of this other stuff. And there's a conversation that Spike and Angel are having about it. And it kind of goes back to that same thing about like, will she ever really be a Slayer? Because, because of what she's gone through and what she's done to me, like, can she ever like really be a Slayer? And I think Spike says something to the effect of like, well, no, she's a monster now.
Right.
And Angel's like, well, yeah, we're all monsters. But then it comes back to I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something about, oh yeah, she's a monster, but then also going back to the idea of like them all being innocent
Hmm.
beforehand. And Spike goes, well, we were all once innocent. Like we
Hmm.
were all innocent victims at one point.
Right.
But that doesn't stop. We were all innocent victims. We all became monsters, and now we're on this path of redemption. But does that mean that she can't still be a great slayer, even though
Yeah.
she's carrying this burden around with her?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. I don't know that I fully agree with it because I think Angel and Spike's cases are very different from Dana's. They had more agency than Dana does due to her mental health state.
Yeah.
I don't really think she's fully aware of what she's doing. I think she was so traumatized
Hmm.
and she obviously wasn't I don't know, maybe there's no ability for her to recover because of her level of trauma, but she certainly wasn't getting the help it seems like she needed,
Right. They were just
to
drugging
just improve
her.
her before she was activated. And then you add that magic and that strength and all those crazy dreams. And, it was like just,
Yeah, I
she so much weight that she was never going to come out from under, which is different to me than Spike and Angel slash jealous situation.
yeah, I think they were just trying to make the comparison that at one point they were all innocent and they lost. Like when you look at all of them turning into what they were, no one specifically said to any of them, I'm going to make you a
True.
vampire, you're going to be an undead person and live immortal. It was sort of veiled in this, I'm going to show you, new worlds and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so the agency of like making an informed decision about changing into another being was
Yeah.
sort of taken away. That innocence was taken away. What they did with it, granted, Dana didn't have much control over it. Neither did they because they didn't have any souls, and so therefore
Right.
they became monsters. Her soul was taken away from her by the torture. One could argue her soul was maybe not taken away, but damaged and,
Yeah.
destroyed by the stuff that went on based on what she, had to go through. But
Yeah. Those are good points.
yeah. So, like, was it a responsible choice for Buffy to cast the spell to make everybody a Slayer? Or for all of the Scoobies to make that decision for every other girl in the world? Was that the best decision to make?
Yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Bites. Let us know your thoughts about the episode by leaving a review or rating us wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Buffy Podcast and email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.